Hi everyone, I'm Kalika. I'm the serial entrepreneur. I own two branding agencies, Citrus Studios, which has been around since, for 21 years. Orange and Bergamot, we focus primarily on providing creative work for female founders. And when Amanda asked me to do this presentation for you or this talk with you, I wanted to figure out what would be the most useful thing for an entrepreneur to have today. And I realized that as branders and as marketers, we already have the tool set that we use for our clients, because usually when clients come to us, they come to us with an issue. They can't sell their product. They're having issues with their target audience has changed. And I realized that if I share some of our tools, then I'll teach you how to proverbially fish, and then you wouldn't have to hire, someone like us. So I really believe that the most successful entrepreneurs are those who can navigate the world as anthropologists. What is anthropology? Anthropology is the study of humans and human behavior. It's the analysis of society, both past and present. So when we take a look at the business and brand landscape today, we need to look at it actually in three different types of lenses. The first one is cultural. The second one is social. And the third one is linguistic. So the first one is cultural. And cultural anthropology studies is the study of the society as a whole. It is what gives cultural meaning, and this includes their norms, their values, their traditions. Social anthropology studies patterns of behavior, human behavior, and linguistic anthropology studies how language influences social life. And I find that the best type of entrepreneurs and the best type of brand strategists notice these patterns faster. What we're seeing emerging during this crisis is one of juxtaposition. It's one of dichotomy. So what is dichotomy? Dichotomy is something that starts from the beginning point where it's the same and they're now starting to diverge. So if you really want to create a brand strategy that makes sense for you all right now, is to analyze these three, types of anthropology: cultural, social, and language, as it, with your brand. So let's start off with the first lens, which is the cultural lens. This is where I see divergence most of all. What we're seeing in the world is business is slowing down, but culture is accelerating. We recently had these three big announcements. One was the UC system is going to say potentially all virtual basically for the rest of the year. I know that there's some, colleges that are going to be doing some type of hybrid model. But the reason why they're doing this is because, there are a lot of students that congregate, in dorms. And if you're having more than, 3 or 4 strangers with you, that can accelerate the virus. And the second is the Hollywood Bowl was canceled. They've canceled their entire 2020 season. And the third, which I heard, like 2 days ago, was that the Oscars potentially will also be postponed in 2021. So these are signals of things that are going to come for the rest of the year. But really, it's our prediction at our agency that everybody in brands and people, leaders keep talking about when this is over, before and after, when we're going to get to the other side of it. But I really think that's really just the wrong way to be watching this play out. And there are 3 types of phases. There's the catalyst, where we're in this forced change. There's adaptation, which is where we're trying to navigate the world. And then the third is the normal, normal, in quotes. A lot of people just want to go from catalyst straight to, I want everything to be back to where it was. But that's just not how we're going to see these changes. It's going to be slow. It's going to be tumbling. There's going to be failures, cancellations, and lots of adjustments. And we really just need to, really get our bearings here right now, figure out what our strategies are right now, so that, when we do see and explore what's happening, we'll be in a better position. I find that the most juicy insights come from not why, but what if. And what I see right now is, cultural is, is accelerating. So Amanda, should I still continue?
Yeah, actually, if you
Are.
don't mind, I would love to ask you, I'd love to ask you some questions. What are you seeing in the market horizon for brands, Kalika? You're such an expert in this space.
Well, I think that this is a time for us to really assess how we're going to have to gather in digital places, how we're going to live, how are we going to learn, how are we going to celebrate, how do we eat, how do we work, how do we play, how do we behave. I think that everything in this market has completely changed. And I think that it is our job as entrepreneurs and as small business owners is to see how has our target audience shifted, because our consumers' behavior and mood are changing weekly, and it is certainly being influenced by social. Earlier I was talking about how social, our human behavior is really influenced. This is something that we see changing week by week. The first week, everyone wanted to bake bread. Everyone wanted to nest. Everyone wanted to clean up their home. The second week was all about your hair, self-care. There was a mood of self-care in the world. Then we had workout week, which was a mood about optimism. So your audience is changing and being influenced really quickly. And a lot of things that I'm also seeing too is we're getting the same type of language from, the brands. I don't know how many times you've received a marketing material where they're using the same type of words, apart yet together. We're here for you. It's unprecedented. It's uncertain. And when businesses start using the same words, it sounds really monotonous. It really sounds one tone. So it's really important as branders or marketers to sound a little bit different. And a lot of times too, when everyone sounds the same, you find that this is really not true empathy, and you cannot have empathy without vulnerability. Hope that answers a little bit your question.
Yes, thank you. And I know even during this time, for the past 2 weeks, so much has happened, right? Even internally as an agency, we're thinking about how we need to maybe reanalyze our brand. So can you share with us like how, different businesses, this is a time for them possibly to reanalyze their brand strategy?
So I really believe you need inspiration. Inspiration is one of the most important parts of the process of rebuilding a product and a brand. You need inspiration, you need energy, and you need motivation to drive your entire company and product forward. And it's really important to keep this inspiration as personal as possible. So what inspires you personally? These are questions that I would ask. What are you naturally drawn to in life? Finding inspiration goes back to what I was saying earlier. You need to be an anthropologist. You need to become an active observer of life. So what I would do, so this is what we do for our clients, I'll share. Right now, we can't go out into the real world. I would go to museums, I would, attend conferences, I would, watch other people's, presentations. But in the virtual world, you can start saving brand inspiration on Pinterest. I've been using this other tool though. It's by WeTransfer. It's called Collect. And when things come up, like yesterday, I was having a Zoom call with some Harvard Westlake parents. And it was just really interesting to me to see how they're navigating this world. Like a lot of them are like not going to jump on a plane. They're not going to be going to restaurants anytime soon. But then when I talk to my entrepreneur friends, like my entrepreneur friends are literally going to grocery stores and wanting to get the virus. They want to breathe in the virus because they want to get it. So you can see that there's such a dichotomy between these different types of people, but that type of insight is really important. So I think that that's where you need to start. You need to start with something that's personal to you. What are you personally inspired by? And I know with you, Amanda, you're the Chief Empowerment Officer. What I like about you is that you really want to make other people successful. That's why you're doing these, webinars. And that really comes from a really great place. And I would just go more into that. Like, how can you continue to inspire people by empowering them?
Yeah, and you know what, Kalika, after I read your book, I actually read it on the weekend. It was super easy read. And I think by reading it and doing kind of the branding, right, finding what is my brand, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I was world changer in leadership, right? And it just goes back to confirm, because there are times where I'm like, what am I about? What is the Amanda brand? And what is the brand of my agency that I want to put forward? Right? And you're exactly right. Like during this time, we put this webinar together. We're not charging people, it's extra cost and extra time on my end. But for me, I was just thinking about the community. Like, how can I help? Because I have these resources, because I have, great network and meet fantastic speaker like you, I wanted to be able to share that. So I think for those of you that are trying to build your brand, perhaps, look at this book. I still have, Kalika also has a worksheet, so I actually have that taped up on my home office because I look at it from time to time, ever since I took that quiz, and I think to myself like, oh, you know what? Everything needs to go back to that. Like, does this make sense? What's the purpose? Like, everything goes back to that. Does it align, right? Kalika, I would love for you to share, how do we redevelop our products and services?
I think that, we need to reconnect with our new consumer. They have like BC, I have like BC and AC. Who was your consumer before COVID and who is your consumer after COVID? Things have completely changed, and it has condensed so quickly, like we had our last recession and it took anywhere from like 18 months to 24 months, right, for us to sort of like figure out like our bearings. But this all happened in a matter of like 3 weeks. And I really do believe that, customer is right. So this is the time where we need to revise our customer profile. So you need to ask, who is your, demographic? Has it shifted? What kind of lifestyle do they live? Like I was just sharing you like what, Harvard Westlake moms are doing. Their culture and attitude and personality is completely different to a small business owner, right? You cannot assume that, and a lot of people sell to moms. So if moms aren't going to be jumping on planes, if they're not going to be going to restaurants, that's going to be pretty profound. What they're planning to do is they're going to just get into their SUV and they're just going to go and drive places. and I was telling them, well, would you rent an RV? And they're like, no, because it's too big to drive, right? So wouldn't it be great for a car company to come up with like a mini RV, something that's bigger than a minivan, knowing that moms are reticent to going to hotels. So anyway, I mean, and I can share these questions later. Where do they live? Have they moved? A lot of time, one of my friends, she has an apartment close to, the Harvard Westlake School, but she lives in Orange County. So, she ended up going back to her home in Orange County. How and when are they going to buy? Like, a lot of people are so used to getting these deliveries now, but, before, moms used to love to, I don't know if they loved it, but they would go to Whole Foods and farmers markets and Trader Joe's. But now it's just, you save so much time and they're used to it. So that's where I would start. I would start by reconnecting with your new consumer.
Okay, perfect, great. And I know in the past we have other entrepreneurs ask us, right? They say, oh, during this time, I also want to start a business. Where can I get inspiration? You guys should tune into Kalika's podcast. It's really good. She interviews tons of successful people. Another one podcast I really like is How I Built This. I think by listening to that, you also hear what ideas people come up with. Some are very intentional and others are just purely luck. So I think those are some platforms for you guys to look into. So Kalika, yeah.
This is the best time, I think, for anyone who doesn't have a business to start a business. I started my business with a used computer and an $86 desk from IKEA. Mm-hmm. And I think that you have the tools today to be able to do it. Like, we have fast internet. In the very beginning of this whole pandemic, I was super depressed, like for a week. And then I started, I got this big sheet of paper. I don't know where it is, but it's basically like, when those placemats, on the front, there's like flowers, and the back it's empty. So I started writing things of the things that I'm grateful for. And then one of the things I was grateful for was like high speed internet. electricity, water. There are a lot of people that don't have that. Like, we have iPhones. I have 2 iPhones, I have like a magic mouse. I have like a magic keyboard. Like, I have lights. And then you realize that we have such an advantage, and we have information. Like, we have industry reports that say, like, what are the 10 industries that are going to be, pushed up with this COVID pandemic. And one of them is, as online distance learning is going to be huge. E-commerce, of course, it's been around for a long time. So, diving into those trend reports are really, really important. And if you want to, after this, I can give you a list of all the reports that I, subscribe to. I like Sparks and Honey. There's another one. There's an intelligence report by, I think it's called Perksky. There's Trendera, there's Hartman. So I can give you a list afterwards that you can share, because it's really important for you to understand, where these other anthropologists are seeing. And what's great about, like, there's a company, like I said, Sparks and Honey, they actually use software to be able to get all this information together. And I think that would be really helpful. They also do Facebook Lives, so you can understand what's happening in this market. I think a lot of things that I'm also seeing too is a lot of mental illness as well. A lot of, entrepreneurs are depressed, if they have not gotten to the habit of meditation or working out. I think that's where I see a lot of issues, because if the small business owner isn't centered, they're going to act a fool. Amanda, you were saying that, in the book, they were talking about qualities. The qualities in the book are very positive, but there's also like the dark side of like your personality. So, like, for instance, as a leader, I'm the leader archetype. I have to watch out, because I'm all about execution. I'm all about getting things done, but I need to know that not everyone is like me. And so, like, I cannot judge people for what I resent, their lack of efficiency or their lack of productivity, because it's not good as a leader to, be suspicious, to not be trustworthy of your team, but, sometimes I think that I'm like, what are you doing? Like, so anyway, so being able to, I don't know where on that tangent, but hopefully that helps.
No, I think that's great. Like, you showed not only just the pro side of those traits, but also, there's a dark side of us, of all those traits. But I think recognizing those things so that you're more aware is always beneficial, right? And you're so right, because especially now the workforce, a lot is from home. So, if they're at the office, it's not like we're here every day just sitting here watching them, or, I don't check what they're doing. I hold them accountable. They're all adults, they're professional, and I want to believe that they're being productive at home, right? But it's just kind of, now is a new way of management. That's how I look at it. Yes, you trust people. Also, you hold them accountable. I think for us, how we communicate to our team is like, we want to see results. Mm-hmm. That will speak for itself, right? You can spend the same 40 hours on one project, but if you don't produce results, it doesn't do anything for the company, right? And we're all in it together, so I think that's the message we kind of like put out there to our team. So I love it that what you're sharing. Kalika, how do you do reconduct market research during this time? Like, do you have any strategies to share with us?
Reconducting market strategy. It's important for you to ask questions. Sorry. I was mentioning a little bit earlier today, that you have to ask questions, that are relative to your consumers today. And I think that, they will share with you, how things have changed, and so, go to those trend reports and things like that. But I do want to share that as marketers, it's really important to keep emotion at the forefront of any type of strategy that you have. I believe that data plus storytelling equals proof. Emotional messaging really resonates with your consumer. So rather than saying like, oh, this is unprecedented, this is uncertain, share real stories about what's happening to you today. And also see how everyone's going to react. One thing that I know, like for, a lot of fashion brands, they get a lot more likes on brands with street style photography versus those that are staged. And so I think that authenticity matters. I think it's important for you to share your stories so that it feels more real than just saying these sort of like hollow words. Like these, I think that those words are now hollow. So.
Great. I mean, I've been following a group called the Asian Hustle Network on Facebook. So they started less than 6 months ago, and I've been reading a lot of great entrepreneur story. And I think, sometimes people are a little bit shy. They don't want to outshine or just market themselves. But more and more people are like, oh, this is what I do. And I saw other people share, so I want to share. And this is what I do. I really love it. And I usually with the normal before COVID-19, we'll probably go to the store and buy a boba drink, but now we can't. I try not to do that, right? Trying to avoid going out. And one of the entrepreneurs, she came up with the thought, like, why don't I do boba kits so people could do it at home themselves? And I love that. Like, I'm seeing people are being so creative during this time, and they're kind of channeling that negative energy into something positive. And and then they're using that platform. So for those of you that are listening, there's, social media is a great platform because they'll post something up and say, hey, what do you guys think? Can you guys give me feedback? And people just been so great, to kind of give them feedback as well.
Yeah, I think that when you hear those case studies, it just really inspires you. There's a lot of, I think I was sharing the last workshop that Louis Vuitton has changed their whole warehouse, their whole manufacturing to be able to make hand sanitizer or like masks. So, one of our, EO members, is selling, masks to celebrities right now. Sanctuary Clothing is really, really successful. Ben Affleck is wearing his masks and a whole bunch of, and I think it was voted like #1 mask on People. So I think that they've identified these products that will help people. And I think that your friend who did the boba kit, started with like, what can I do to help? And that starts from a really good place.
Yeah. Great. Kalika, I know so many people are rebranding. So how would you suggest people reconnect with their consumer base?
I think that it's really important for a brand to have a distinguishable identity. What a lot of people do is they will look at other brands first, and there's a lot of brands that are changing the way that they're presenting themselves. And I think that it's important to make sure that you have a clear, let's say you have a new mission statement, right? It has to still be clear. I think clarity still has to be very, very at the forefront. It also has to be distinguishable, and I think that it goes back to also getting inspired. What are some of your other brands that you're finding inspiration from? Why do you think that these brands are so successful? What lessons can you learn from these brands for your own brand? And I think that, inspiration is one of the most important parts of the process of rebuilding a product and brand. And I think that, again, being an observer of life. One of my friends who works at another brand agency subscribes to the United Airlines CEO's newsletters, and I'm just like, oh, why? Why are you subscribing to it? He's just like, well, he wants to see, what they're saying. What is United doing? You know what United is doing? United is teaming up with Clorox to be able, and saying it like, we have come up with a new way to clean our planes. Like that's pretty profound, like before. And they say that the air quality in planes were actually better than what's in, the grocery store, but we're more scared about going on a plane, so he needs to communicate with that. So if there are brands that, and it doesn't have to be in your industry. So like, for instance, you, Amanda, you don't have to follow just, event industry brands. You can follow these other brands so you can learn from.
Okay, great. I think that's so important right now, right? Like, a lot of people are reinventing themselves or discovering new opportunities.
Yeah.
So even I know for our agency, we specialize in live events, but in the last 3 months, we had to pivot to virtual/digital, whatever you want to call it. They're kind of interchangeable right now, but making sure that communication comes through to the client so that they understand what your new offerings are and how you continue to bring value. I think that's super important. Yeah. And then do you have any tools, exercise? I know you have tons of ideas up your sleeve. Can you kind of share some of those tactics with us?
Yeah, so I shared a little bit earlier before that it's important for you to be able to collect this information in a way that it's easy for you to share with your consumers. One tool that I use a lot is Pinterest, and another tool that one of my friends who owns WeTransfer has a tool called Collect. I've been also using another tool called Paste app, so that it's a very easy tool to use for when you're collaborating with other people on a deck, because they don't have to have Keynote, they don't have to have PowerPoint, and you can directly, communicate. And I think that, we're talking about how everything is changing, in this distributed workforce. And I think that one tool that I recently read was this book by the founder of 37 Signals Basecamp. It's called Remote. He wrote this book in 2013. And also another podcast by Sam Harris, The Future of Work, I think is really, really important as well too, because, and then he shares some tactics of like what he does. And I think it's important to get like a really good headset, a really good microphone, because you're going to be doing a lot more Zoom calls. As far as social media goes, we used a tool called LinkedIn Bio. We also use a tool called Linktree, which basically gives you a profile so that you can have multiple links and you can direct people there. For some of my other brands, we've been doing Instagrammable shop posts. So basically you can now shop directly from Instagram. I think that that's been really helpful. But yeah, there's, and then of course, we're doing podcasts. I think podcasts is such a simple way for you to be able to explore the world. If, who here has a ring? A ring? Do you have a ring doorbell? Amanda? No? Okay. Anyway, so Ring, is installed in, several people's homes, and you realize that now a lot of companies are going to be branding sounds. So sometimes, as you're exploring the world, I would give you as a task, as a homework, for you to listen to how brands have branded audio. Listen to like what Netflix sounds. Bless you. Listen to what Ring sounds. Listen to what Intel sounds. They have those, and I think that's going to be important in today's world. We're going to be looking more at an auditory environment as well. And I think also voice search is also going to be really important. So really exploring that, I think is going to be important. And I can, I can share like a reading list, with you later as well.
Did you see about Facebook? I think they were saying now you can sell stuff on Facebook also.
Yes, you can. Yeah. I think that, yes, I think that it's still important. I think it's important for you to always still own your platform. A lot of times people are exclusively selling on these platforms, but you can see how quickly the world is accelerating. It's always important for you to own your own, I guess, end product. One of my friends who sold the majority of products on Amazon, shut down her account, and that was really hard. So it's important to not only, establish your presence there, but also to make sure that you also own your own medium as well. So that means, controlling your website, owning your website.
That's awesome. I also see that a lot of people during this time, I think, and then you say you have some worksheets that you'll be able to share with everybody, or links later as well. Okay.
I'll send it to you so you can start.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then do you have any other tips to share before we transition to Q&A?
I think that the most important thing is going back to what I was saying about data and storytelling. A lot of times, I was on a workshop yesterday, the Asian Pacific Community Fund, and I was sharing to them that the volunteers make up an invisible economy, about $200 billion, and if you think about that, you think like, oh, wow, $200 billion is a lot of money, but it sort of falls flat if you just have the data. But if you say that you know, what happens if we don't have this invisible economy? What happens if we don't have that person answering the suicide hotline? What if we don't have that person manning the shelters with these pets, these pets that aren't being adopted? What if we don't have those reading circles of those people, of people where, some of these kids go after school? It would be a completely different world today. So if you couple data plus stories, then I think that you can have the proof that you need to be able to convert clients. But, and another tip I have is, I think, which is what you're doing right now, is contribute first, then convert later. So I would start, also making sure that you're not, what they call tone deaf. I got a newsletter email from someone who's like, oh, come to my store. And this was like right in the middle of like the pandemic. And so you could tell that he had these automatic, emails that were going out, and was completely tone deaf. So I thought that was a little bit off.
Yeah, I would definitely say, make yourself relevant, right? So yesterday I saw an organization, they sent out email, and I thought it was a great email because they're leveraging this time to showcase a lot of their members' businesses or services, but that's currently relevant, not just like, oh, here's, I don't know. It was all relevant because it has to do with like, here's some production company that can help you with your videos, and here's some, printing company for restaurants because, you probably want to print out to go available, right? But all these people are making themselves relevant, and I thought it was a job well done on that particular organization to think of this and pivot and how to highlight those that are able to help, the community, yeah. And then, great. Okay, now we're open up to Q&A. I think this is your opportunity to ask our branding/marketing expert, Kalika. And I heard her speak on so many different webcasts and different, events. And she always has such great wisdom to share. So our very first question, we have a company called LA Vintage. Where we sell vintage clothing and shoes on a wholesale basis to various vintage stores around the world.
Hi, Murtaza.
Post-COVID, we want to start selling directly to end user online, but we basically have no brand strategy. So what are some basic steps we could take in order to be successful online?
Man, that is such a great question. I think that you need to be distinct. I don't know if you can see like my background here. I have like a seamless background. I think that you need to start distinguishing yourself completely different from what everyone else is doing. So I would say, take a look at some of the top brands, as you know, what was her name? Sophia Amoroso started, using eBay, selling vintage clothes when everyone else zag. So make sure that you have a distinct voice. So whether or not it's, maybe you use plus size models, or maybe you use, I don't know, like kids to model. It just has to be completely different. And it should be different, but also consistent. Consistency is really, really, really key. So let's say you have a particular color, with LA Vintage. Or maybe what you do is you have a color, I don't know, maybe you use, a steel background or something like that. It has to just be, it has to be personal to you, Murtaza, but also different from what everyone else is saying. Yeah.
Great. Our next question, Kalika, what advice would you have to reach out to communities or people who have not access to technology or not technologically advanced?
Could they give me more information? Because, I'm seeing my mom who's 70, 80, they're on technology. So can they be more specific?
Okay. While they're kind of typing that out, maybe I could transition to another question first and come back. Mm-hmm. How do services such as fitness, coaching, play into how you brand a product that's not tangible? One of the audience is asking.
I think it is extremely tangible. One of my friends who owns Box Union, it was always in their plan. a couple years late, you know, down the line that they were going to do something virtual. The pandemic had to force them to be, you know, online, and they did it. Now they have like virtual classes. I introduced her to my friend Sadie Lincoln, who has, I think, over 600 locations, but primarily everything is online. Sadie Lincoln owns a company called Bar 3. She's also an EO of the Entrepreneurs Organization. And so I think it is absolutely relative. You can definitely have online classes, you know, online. And what was great about Box Union was in the matter of like a weekend, they got 3,000 new followers tuning in all across the world saying hello, hi, hello from Ecuador, hello from Guatemala, you know. And then now they have this online offering, and guess what? Guess where they're going to go? They're going to go to like one of the top boxing studios here in LA, because the truth is there are a lot of people who don't live in places that are cool, and you know, LA is cool and hip, or, you know, California, you know, is known for this creativity. They want that. They crave that. They want to see you. They want to be part of the mix, and you can do that with high-speed internet.
Yeah. Kalika, you interview so many successful entrepreneurs, right? I think you were telling me one time about Salt and Straw. So I would love for you to share some of these, you know, what is their marketing strategy? Because it's all about marketing. The product, a lot of times, is the same, but it's how you communicate, how you market, right? So please share some wisdom on that.
Kim Malik is amazing. Kim Malik is the founder of Salt and Straw. She put her house on the line. She tapped into her, you know, all her savings, and then she borrowed money from her boyfriend to be able to help get this. She was serious, and I think that if you're going to start a business, you have to be serious. You have to be passionate about it. And the reason why she started Salt and Straw was because, you know, when she was younger, you know, she bonded with people over ice cream. And so there was something about that feeling that she wanted to share with everyone, just like how you know, you're a world changer. You want to help people, you want to empower people, you want people successful. Like, you have to start with that feeling. Yeah. And then from there, it'll grow. But for her, she was such a successful executive at Starbucks, right? So she had this background. And so a lot of times, you know, when you think that you have all the answers, you fail. And so what I have learned for the most by interviewing all these amazing entrepreneurs is that they know what they don't know. And they are humble enough to ask the question. The smartest people I know ask. They ask for help. You know, and I think that the reason why a lot of entrepreneurs don't ask for help is because everyone's always asking us for the answers, and we're giving them the answers. But at some point, we need to stop and we need to ask for help and be able to also reciprocate that in the future. Say, like, what can I also help you with? Not just keep on asking, and, you know, you have to help and give back.
And I think you have mentioned for Salt and Straw, they also, like, how did they come up with the flavors? Can you share that? I love that story. Because that, I mean, part of their fun is all their flavors, right?
Yeah. So one of the things that they did was they asked fifth graders to come up with some flavors. And she also teamed up with her cousin, who was, you know, also like you know, a chef. And so he also helped come up with flavors. But what they wanted to do was really help the community, you know, and so it was very, very farm to table, you know, aspect of it. So they reached out to, you know, their local communities, and their local communities also helped them back. Yeah, their flavors are so creative, so delicious. I love that. Yeah, you all should listen to her interview. We also have it on video as well too. So.
Okay, great. So Kalika, I didn't get any further clarification on the previous question, but maybe for people that I think they were asking, other than technology, people who are not savvy with technology, what other branding or marketing can they do? Is it like snail mail? Is it TV?
Yeah, I don't, you know, I think digital is really where it is, you know, because you can, and yeah, you know, I got this question when I started in 1999. It's now 2020.
Can you
you know,
start?
and I think that you can
Start
reach,
my video.
I can see you.
Oh, sorry.
Hello.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I like that light. Yeah. So I think that, you can reach out, but I mean, unless you're reaching out to the homeless, I mean, I don't, most people do have some type of technology in their pocket now. I mean, maybe I just need more information. I mean, they can email me. Are you trying to reach people in third world countries? Even third world countries have internet.
Okay, great. Someone wrote, I work for a government agency and they're trying to reach those who are disadvantaged community and they don't have all the technology. Oh, I think this is tagging on to the previous question. Or are they tech savvy? How do they engage them?
So one of my friends actually has a software where so surprisingly enough, almost, I mean, even when my mom lived in the Philippines in a very remote part, they all had phones, but they have flip phones. And so what they do is they text. Everything is via text, via SMS. Well, how they also reach them is through Facebook, because with Facebook, you can, communicate, and then if they log into someone's, internet, then they don't have to pay for those minutes. So there's definitely ways that they can do it. They do it through, through SMS. And if you want, I can connect you. His name is Ravi, but he basically is trying to end poverty through technology. And he's doing it by basically, and he's also educating people through technology. What he's doing is, there are a lot of people, in the Philippines. He's based in the Philippines, even though he's not Filipino. He's Indian. He realizes that in the Philippines, a lot of people don't like to communicate face to face with their bosses. They might be having issues with their family, and so they just won't show up for work. They just won't show up. And then when they don't show up for work, they lose their, means for living. And if they lose their means for living, then it just keeps them in poverty. And so what he realized that, the Filipinos are just a little bit shy with saying that they have problems. And so rather than facing their boss, they will just not show up. But if you had an SMS, right, with that says 1, 2, 3, like 1, I'm late because, I'm having issues with my mom or whatever. Number 2, it's because I'm sick. Number 3, it's because the transportation is down, right? They're more comfortable communicating that way than actual face-to-face because they're shy, so we've been oppressed for so many years, so maybe it just runs in our DNA. So that's how they're doing it. They're really analyzing the end client, how, what are their motivations, like what really is driving them. And a lot of times with Filipinos, it's shame, so, that's how they're curtailing, that's how they're communicating. They're communicating via SMS.
That's got it. We have another question for you. Murtaza asks, how good is the new Facebook feature, Shop, to sell online?
I would go with, Murtaza, I would go with Instagram, the Shoppable Post. And it's linked to the Facebook Business Manager. It's so easy to set up. So basically you can just set it up. And you know what? I actually I did a whole blog post on it. There's like 3 articles on how to set up your store. But because your store is visual, I would do Instagram and shop directly from Instagram. And this was a feature that wasn't available to everyone in the past. It was only available to like a select few, like the Zaras and the Sephoras of the world. In July last year, they rolled it out. And I don't think people are taking advantage of it.
And Kalika, so we also have a question. So someone asked, because you are an expert in digital, also, in addition to branding, any advice on websites? Right? Because right now, anything on the digital, whether it's website, social media, that's the first thing people see.
Video. My goal this year was to create 100 videos for my brand. I think that you need to have video. Even in 2017, there was a survey that Cisco did that 80% of people, or 72% of people, are watching more video now. That was in 2017. Video. I would do video. I would do screencasts. There's a tool called Loom. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, explain, here's an example. You know what I would do for video? I would do all your frequently asked questions as videos. Why should I hire Innovate Marketing Group? You should hire Innovate Marketing Group because blah, blah, blah. You know, we're online, you know, we know how to do virtual events. We're creative, you know, we really have, you know, you top of mind. How do you like working? What tools do you use? We use Ecamm Live software. I don't know, like, you know, we use Media Site for live streaming. I would put everything on video.
Got it. And then what's your take on crowdcasts? I think that's been pretty popular with a lot of influencers who's trying to do their own video. Because like you said, a lot of online education, that's becoming so popular. Every day I'm probably getting pitched like, you want to learn how to do marketing, you want to learn how to do, you know, learn more about HR. You know, everybody has kind of a educational that's online now that we could tap into.
I would first, before doing that, is to try to see how you like learning. So for me, I got a subscription to masterclass.com. And if you want, you know, Amanda, I gave you my login and password, right? So, and I think that when you see, you need to first understand how the online, you know, learning works. You know, take a course at Coursera. Do you guys know that that Yale course on happiness, like millions of people have signed up for it? I started taking it and literally like I stopped watching it because I just couldn't get into the style of teaching. It was among graduate students in the circle, you know, but I also, you know, I like Marie Forleo. I like the way she, you know, teaches because there's lots of graphics, you know, then it goes to her, you know, there's a lot of different cuts. You know, then I'll go to, you know, some YouTube, you know, videos and watch how people are sharing their content, you know, and start analyzing, why is it that I like it? Why do I like learning this way? Is it because it's not boring? Is it because they have downloadable workbooks? Is it because they, you know, tell the truth? You know, so I think that you need to have some type of voice. Are you taking some of those classes, Amanda?
Like in little segments, sometimes I just like to have them in the background, you know? So you really have to pay attention. I would say because I have 2 kids at home, try to work at the same time, those are usually probably better for like nighttime, I would recommend.
Yeah, for me, what I've done is I've taken like 2 hours of my day, you know, to be able to learn. So in the morning, you know, you know, because before, you know, I was like taking the kids to school. So from 6:45 to like, you know, 8:30, I have it on my calendar to actually learn. You know, so, but there's so many tools out there when it comes to live casts. You know, there's Be Live, there's Ecamm Live, there's so many. You know, you can use Media Site, but what I think is going to continue happening after this happens is it's going to be always hybrid. It's going to be virtual plus it's going to be live. Amanda.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It is, you know, it will be because now people, you know, and then virtual events is not something new. It's been around for 10 plus years. It's just new to a lot of people who hasn't tapped into this capability. And now because of COVID, we're forced to use this technology. You know, I remember going to a special event conference 10 years ago and they're like, oh, we could do this virtually. I'm like, why? You know, I like seeing people, right? I love people. I'm a people person, but now we can't, you know, we have to stay far away. So we're forced, like today we're using Zoom, right?
Yeah, but I think it's going to be a little bit different. I think like I'm imagining, like let's say you have your speakers, you know, but you might also have like a superstar speaker that may not be in the room. And that's what happened with EO. Were you there in EO where they actually zoomed like Steve Wozniak and everyone was so mad? They were like, Steve Wozniak is going to be here. And it was like a hologram, but it was live. You know, he was really talking to us in San Francisco, but everyone was just like, that was bad marketing. But now I think that's going to be more acceptable, you know? Like, you know, Mark Cuban spoke to EO, what, yesterday or the day before yesterday? Like, that's great.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Were you? I know.
Yeah, I was part of it. Sandra in the audience also was sharing like it was awesome. She also tapped into Linda with the LA Public Library. And then we do have one last question because we're coming up on time. One of the audience asked, can you share the link for setting up a Facebook shop?
Yeah, it's Facebook Business Manager.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Well, we are coming up on time, so I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you guys all for joining us today. We do have other great webinars coming. I want to thank Kalika for sharing her time with us and sharing all her insights. Every time I talk to Kalika, I learn something new because she's just constantly educating herself. She reads a lot. You know, I think among us entrepreneurs, I don't know anyone else that reads as much as her. And I think perhaps that's why she's so successful.
Yeah, I think one book that I would highly recommend is Obstacles the Way by Ryan Holiday. I think that I know I've been exploring Stoicism for the past couple of years, and I think that having a philosophy of life is really, really important. So, and then I'm also reading Zen is the Way right now. So
great. And then just for everybody that's out there, we do have, backed by popular demand, our pivot to virtual. We're going to have a second edition because a lot of people was asking for it. So that's on June 4th for those of you that want to tune in. But otherwise, you know, stay strong. I think we're on week 9. I lose count, right? But it's amazing. Tap into all the resources. Check out Kalika's new book, her website. She's on EO Wonder podcast. Yes, and her new book is called The Little Brand Book. It's a very, very easy book to read. Okay, so thank you guys all again for joining us and have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you, Kalika.